हरि ओम श्री कृष्ण। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। We are in the third valli, third mantra. Repeat after me. आत्मानं रथिनं विद्धि शरीरं रथमेव तु बुद्धिं तु सारथिं विद्धि मनः प्रग्रहमेव च। The next mantra also. Indriyani hayanahuhu Indriyani hayanahuhu Vishayansteshu gocharan Atmendriyamano yuktam भोक्तेत्याहुर्मनीषिणः। A very beautiful example cited. Atmanam rathinam viddhi shariram rathamevatu buddhim tu sarathim viddhi manah pragraham evacha. A very beautiful simile which is taken up for discussion. An unusual style for the Upanishad, which usually focuses on a direct message to be given. It does not tend to deviate from its directness of the message. But here, the example is as direct as one can get. In today's language, if the Upanishad were to be explained, probably they would have taken the example of a car. In those days, the mode of transportation was ratha. Ratha, a chariot. Atmanam rathinam viddhi. So ratha is taken for discussion. I'm sure you all have watched Mahabharat series, so you know how a chariot looks like, right? Because if you give me an example of a crusader's chariot or a chariot from Ten Commandments, or they're little different. They're still chariots though. So how does a chariot look? So the chariot has 4 to 10 horses, and literally the vehicle's power is for how many ever horses tied in, that many horsepower. That is where it all originates from. So there are horses, then there is the, what do you call it? Pragraham, the reins that connect to the horses, and they are yoked to the chariot. There is a charioteer, and this whole setup for the one who is riding the chariot. Usually, to yoke one horse and be able to ride, managing one horse in itself is a good task, a difficult task. Imagine 4 horses yoked, and to manage them in the same direction is that much more difficult. So if you can visualize that picture, so that example is taken to give a deeper sense of meaning. The same example is taken by Bhagavan Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. The same example is taken by Ram in Ramcharitmanas. Sant Goswami Tulsidas ji takes it, and he explains the Dharma chariot. When Ramji was about to fight Ravana, Vibhishana is scared that Ravana is very sophisticated. He has got the chariot, he has got the ammunitions, he has got all the bells and whistles, and he has got good charioteers. You don't even have a chariot. How are you going to fight on an equal footing? Then he explains with the same example as to what are the true chariots in one's life. If you have gone through Balavihar, you should remember it. Do you remember it vaguely? Sorta, kinda. So the kids, when they come to explain, Balavihar kids, when they come to explain it on the stage, they call it the Dharma chariot. The Rs don't roll. So this example has been off-quoted, and the original is in this particular Upanishad in these 2 mantras. Atmanam rathinam vidhi. Understand that the Atma, the self, as the person for whom this chariot is used. Atmanam rathinam vidhi. He is the boss of this chariot. The self is the boss of this chariot. Without the self, the chariot cannot go. There are many of you who are in medical school, med schools, and you often work on dead bodies. What do you call them? Cadavers. Okay. When you start cutting them open, or to understand the human body, does the body say, "Hey, don't push it, it tickles," or "Be gentle"? There is no response, because the one for whom it was a house, is no more there. So that self is the boss of this body, of this ratha. Shariram ratham evacha. And this body is the chariot in itself. Who is the charioteer? Tange wala. Chariot is a very sophisticated word. In a very layman's term, the same chariot can be called as a tanga. If you see a couple of movies where this, have you seen Sholay? Basanti rides one, Hema Malini. So that is called tanga. So the sharira, the body in itself is called the ratha. And the charioteer is the buddhi. And what are the reins through which you control the chariot and the horses? It's your accelerator, it's your clutch, it's your brakes, everything are in those reins. The reins are manaha pragraham evacha. The mind is the reins. Usually it is made of some leather material because it has to withstand the wear and tear, and it has to be robust. It cannot snap off. Once it is tied down to the horses and yoked to the chariot, the reins are your entire control. Manaha pragraham evacha. The mind is the reins, the rope. Now, what are the horses? Indriyani hayan ahuhu. Haya means horse. Now, there are some people who say that horses were brought in from Middle East or Africa into India. No, the horses and the reference of horses age way back into our literature, Vedic literature, Vedic Sanatana Dharma. So horses are not imported, they probably are exported. So what are these horses? Indriyani, the organs of or the senses are the hayan. How many senses do we have? Okay. 10. 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action. So the body has how many horsepower? 10 horsepower. We have 10 organs, 10 senses. And what is the path, or what is the field? Vishayan teshu gocharan. And the roads, the path are the sense objects. Atmendriya mano yuktam bhokta iti ahur manishinah. The enjoyer, they call this entire unit of the chariot, the horses, the reins, and everything that goes in as an equipment built for the enjoyment of the enjoyer seated within, for the self within. Now let us take some examples. 10 organs of perception, 10 organs, 5 organs of perception and 5 organs of action. If each horse takes to a different path, what will happen to the chariot and the charioteer? It's a hilarious situation, right? Sometimes when you sit for a long time in an uncomfortable posture and you get up, sometimes it happens like, you suddenly are called for, you're getting a medal or you're getting a gift or something and your name is announced and then you suddenly get up. You get up, but your lower part of the body doesn't get up with you. In that intensity, you try moving, and what happens? Oh, whoa, what happened? And you see that fellow fumbling there and all. What happened? My legs fell asleep. One organ as an example. Each organ adds to the chariot a sense of direction and purposefulness. So the senses or the horses, when they are wild horses, what do? They have to train the horse. And the training process is often called, do you know what is the technical word used? Breaking the horse. Breaking it away from its wildness so that it can be yoked, so that it can be used properly. So you break the horse. It wants to run wild. So what do? You tie a rope and create a fence and put a peg right in the middle of that fenced environment and allow it to run around. And teach various aspects that you can communicate with that horse and break it into a pattern, into a rhythm, into a discipline. Such broken horses, the horses which have been well disciplined and trained, such healthy ones which have been trained and disciplined, then fetch a lot in the market because they have now been broken and disciplined. Similarly, the organs of perception and action are usually wild in nature. Another Upanishad says that these are paranchikani vyaturuna swayambhuhu paran pashyati na antaratman. That by nature, these organs of perception and action have a tendency to jump outwardly and constantly be out there. It is not called ADD or ADHD. It is called the natural tendency of that organs of perception and action to be in their wild state. And the breaking process begins, wherein all the wildness has to be contained and productive discipline is to be instilled in those organs of perception and action. We are so distracted with these 10 organs that any slight distraction and we are lost. Supposing in the back side right now there was a sound, a sudden thud. What happens? All of us will suddenly turn back, get distracted. And while this is happening, if there is a cooking session happening and the smell comes, today morning, Swami Nikhilananji was leaving, so there were a lot of volunteers that had come. And I had to cook something quick for him before he leaves. And I was doing some silent job. As it was getting cooked, one by one the ladies started dropping into the kitchen, saying, Swamiji, do you need some help? I smell something beautiful. Actually, it was my daughter who immediately smelled and said, there is dal cooking with ghee. Pretty to understand. Not just dal cooking with ghee. They were supposed to be having question answer sessions with Swami Nikhilanandji, and this little waft of air goes there, and they are all like, let me guess, what may be cooking? So what happens in while you're discussing? Complete distraction, right? And probably that is why in the puja vidhi, the step just before the naivedya, food offered to the Lord, is you light an incense stick so that we are not distracted by the food that is going to be displayed as an offering to the Lord. It's so easy to get distracted. The ears are distracted with sound, the eyes are distracted with forms, the nose is distracted with smell, the tongue, the taste. How many of you are feeling really warm in this area? Is it becoming distracting? Sorta, kinda. There is no air circulating. And sometimes, we go to, how much air can this give you? The leaflets and the books, they also sound sometimes handy. This book is supposed to be revered, and they start using the book for, fanning themselves up. Why? There is a kind of a discomfort because the skin feels it. Distraction through there. That's why when I go to watch these matches, the games, basketball game or football game or a soccer game. You've been to a basketball game? Like 25, 30,000 people sitting there, and nobody is like a Wimbledon environment. Silence, please. Everybody is pin drop silence. All that you can hear is the grunting sound of the two players and the ball being smacked around. And then they're like, in this kind of an arena wherein 30,000 people are yelling on the top of their voice, having fun. They're these sound makers, the clappers and different kinds of gadgets and instruments. Sometimes those horn, what do you call it? Air horn? What? Boozwell. Oogswella. Okay. You carry that also there? Okay. Soccer matches. Okay. You carry all these. If it is a cricket game, the entire drumming set and everything goes there to the nagadas, and they start. And it is, if you are there, it is a distraction to sit there and watch the game as a onlooker. Imagine the distraction that is being supplied to the player. And in that distraction, they have to bring in the focus that they can turn off every outside influence and focus on their game. They cannot say, well, nobody is there, I'm a good player, but this is a very distracting environment. And you are expected to be there to receive a pass, and suddenly somebody goes, boom, and then the ball comes and boom, hits you. What happened? Sorry, my bad. No, it doesn't work. You have to be so focused. That's why in cricket, when there is a sudden shower or rain or something that happens, and the game gets disrupted for 15-20 minutes, and the players come back, and you find that as soon as they come back, they get out. And up until then, they were playing good. What happened? The focus is realigned or not aligned. They get distracted. The rhythm with which they are playing gets broken. So the organs of perception and action, they are the horses, and they have to be disciplined. But instead of disciplining them, if we say that I feel like doing it, that's why Gurudev beautifully explains. He says, what is freedom? The freedom is that capacity of the individual wherein you do not do what you feel like. To not do what you feel like is called freedom. What an amazing definition of freedom. It has been given to us, we have been conditioned always hearing that to do what I feel like is called freedom. That is called indulgence. And what is freedom? To not do, knowing that it is not going to be productive or fruitful, and knowing that withdraw from it, to have that balance, to have that discipline. That is called freedom. And when can one gain it? When one has a true capacity of the organs of perception action, that you snap at them and they withdraw or act whenever required, however required. I may have given this story earlier. There was a contemporary of Swami Vivekananda. His name was Swami Ramdas, and he was from Lucknow. He was a mathematician and a very good poet in Urdu. Very good poet. And he had also come to US. He had made friends with someone on the ship, and they became his hosts. They took him to a stadium where people were practicing for Olympics. And they say, why are they running? Because it was very amusing for him to see people running for there's nobody chasing them. Why are they running? Because India was still under the British rule, and people usually run when there is a cop chasing you or somebody chasing you. They're simply running. There's nobody chasing them. Why are they running? And as amused as we are today, it was told to him that it's a competition. They're preparing for it. They're training themselves for it. They said, oh, that's all. And some of those who are getting trained, they said, what, that's all? Do you think you can play with us? Do you think you can run with us? And he was wearing like a dhoti, like what I'm wearing. And he ties it up, like, typical South Indian. It's a ready-made short. You pull it up, it becomes a short. Decently pull it up, and then it becomes a short. And he ties it up, and then he says, okay, let me try it. Just show what I have to do. So the entire process was shown to him. And on your marks, get set, and then runs. And he comes third. And people are shocked. They said, you've never run before like this? You've never competed? I said, no. I just brought entire focus and energy into my running, and I put everything into it. To have that discipline to put something into action, as well as to withdraw from it. Both aspects show that discipline. See, to speak is easy. When you're getting irritated, when you're getting angry, and you feel like giving it back to that person, at that time, to rein it in and put a smile and say, I don't need to react to it. To have that control, to withdraw it. At the same time, to use it wherever required. That kind of disciplined horses. Indriyani hayan ahuhu. Where do these horses run? To their specific field. At least one good thing about is these organs of perception action, at least they stay focused in their field. They don't mess around with other fields. You know what? I'm bored. So what do? Instead of eating through my mouth, I'll eat through my nose. Does the nose ever demand? I'm getting bored with the same kind of job. I need a job change. I'm burnt out. From today on, I will eat. Let the mouth breathe. There are some who do that also in some specific cases. Heights of foolishness. He was talking about a joke. So that's called snorting, right? Maja aa gaya. No, you never change. Food is always eaten through the mouth. Or, enough of it. I'll eat through my ears. I'll taste through my eyes. You're getting the point? They at least stay focused in their particular field. But even in their field, they do not have the balance or appreciate the balance of how much to involve or how much to withdraw. Sometimes we get so dejected and say, I don't want to do anything. That is not the time for you to throw tantrums and say, I withdraw. Suck it up, finish your job. The outside world of things are there, but it does not mean that you have the right to go indulge in everything that is out there. Oh, the smell was irresistible, so I just barged in and ate your food. Sorry. Your neighbor was cooking something, grilling something in the backyard on a Sunday grill. Smells good. So you just jump into their backyard and grab something and say, why? It smelled good. You cannot. It has to have its own discipline. Even before we talk about the psychological things, a basic discipline at the level of organs of perception action has to be established. That discipline seems to be curtailing freedom or seems to be purposeless. Many kids, when you talk about discipline, say, "Wait, I'm okay. Why should I be disciplined? I'm getting everything good." Discipline actually helps at that time when there is a sorry twist in our tail and things go haywire. To bring our life back on track is easier when the organs of perception and action are disciplined. Like in the war, the one who is riding the horse gets knocked out. Some missile or some arrow or something hits, they wanted to dodge or something happened and he got knocked out of the horse. He fought and he is now trying to escape from that place. And if it is a disciplined horse, it's searching for its master. He makes that sound which the horse is familiar with. And the horse aligns itself to its master and comes to the rescue. Haven't we seen that? There was Rana Pratap Singh. His horse was famous one called Chetak. So famous that the Indian scooter is named after that. Bajaj Chetak. Chetak was the horse's name, wherein he would whistle And the horse would hear that sound and understand the purpose of that whistle and come align itself to that order. That he jump off of the fort and land on the horse, and the horse would take him and gallop. As in Mask of Zorro, the horse is there on the escape route when he tries to jump off and try to run. So the organs of perception action should be so disciplined. And what is the best way to start that discipline? Understand the weaknesses where the mind or where the organs of perception action have a tendency to lose its balance. Tongue. We have an imbalance for a specific kind of food. As a brahmachari, I used to suffer in my initial days because I've grown up as a South Indian, though grown up in different parts of India, but growing up as a South Indian, a South Indian meal has to necessarily end with curd rice. Even if it is pizza or spaghetti or what is the Japanese that sushi, it has to end with curd rice. As a brahmachari, we don't have a control over who feeds what. I has to suffer, like, because how much ever full I would eat, it would not feel the satiation point until that curd rice fell in. For some it may be sweets, for some it may be spicy food, whatever it is. You understand your weaknesses of each organ of perception and action. Make sure that it is such versatile that it never adjusts to a comfort zone and settles in. That anything thrown at it, it should be able to handle. Start slow. Start one step at a time. Discipline the organs of perception and action. I can't sleep without my bed and pillow. Really? When you can dare sleep in my class, don't give me the logic of I cannot sleep without my bed and my pillow. I mean, with a blaring sound and what happened? If you can't sleep in all kinds of environment, take my talk, download and put it on the speaker. Maybe you will get better sleep. Food habits, waking habits, sleeping habits. How I interact with the world outside, the world of things, through my organs of perception action. What are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? List them out and start working on each one of them. First of all, if there are bad habits, try cutting them off mercilessly. There is no debate there. Oh, I have become conscious, I was smoking a lot. I've become conscious now. Now, instead of 10 a day, now I have reduced it to 5 a day. Oh, only 5 cigarettes? No, 5 packs a day. Earlier it was 10 packs. When you're killing yourself with 100 of them or 50 of them, it doesn't matter. You understand, you become conscious, stop it. If food that is being served to you, you understand that it has poison in it, would you say, I'll slowly stop? Instead of taking the entire plate full, I'll stop with half plate full. If there are bad patterns, you stop them immediately. Drinking, smoking, snorting. I mean, similar addictions like, the cell phone addictions, Netflix addictions, what else? Facebook addictions. I was sitting, flying from Frankfurt to Dallas. My next seat, the lady that was sitting, she is a psychiatrist from El Paso. El Paso. And just we were talking about various things, and my field and her field were like talking about the mind. It was a very interesting conversation. And she said these days the youngsters that come to her, which she has coined, is called Facebook syndrome. And what is the Facebook syndrome? That you post something and you keep checking every 2 minutes how many people have liked, how many people have commented. And you post and nobody likes. You feel a sense of worthlessness because nobody is liking it. And you feel depressed because of that. Binge eating, binge watching, indisciplined patterns of organs of perception and action. There are no two ways about it. They are harmful patterns, they have to be stopped. And there are certain patterns which are not productive. Try to discipline these organs of perception in that particular field wherein efficiency is brought out to the max. While disciplining and fine-tuning yourself for the efficiency, it may seem like a chore, boring one, burning you out. Don't give up. It's only after that you have settled in with comfort and balance that you can choose how to use it. Is there anybody who learnt cycling without falling down? Did you give up? Did you have patchwork everywhere? We don't give up. Oh, I tried, but it doesn't help, so I gave up. I'm back to my binge, habitual, pathetic existence. Because if the organs of perception action are not disciplined, talking about mind and intellect is futile. Because you keep trying to focus on mind and intellect, trying to bring them to a productive and a robust system, and it is being distracted by the internal system of organs of perception action. So the organs of perception action need to be aligned, disciplined. If you employ a worker and doesn't come on time, even after few, what do you call, tardies, what do you do with that kind of an employee? Don't you fire them off? Then how do you live with yourself? These organs of perception action have to be employed by us. I am the employer. When I cannot tolerate the indiscipline of a worker, how can I tolerate the indiscipline at my own organs of perception and action? To such a disciplined organs of perception and action, add, yoke, a mind. How is that mind? The mind which is sharp, focused, and available. SFA. Sharp, focused, and available. Sometimes I don't trust those who are trying to write notes in my class. No, I don't mean you both, but I see that you are writing. Because they give an appearance of writing, and what they actually are doing is doodling, caricatures. Sometimes there is not even a caricature, some random circles and lines. And the best artistic output of such doodling was in Bombay in one of the universities. Just before inviting me onto the uh, stage, there are the chairs, the chairs which have a writing pad kind of a thing. On that there was something etched. There was a graveyard, a gravestone, and the tombstone, it was written, dedicated to all those who experience near death experience in the boring English class. It was nicely carved into that wood. So, how should the mind be? Subtle, sharp, focused, and available. It does not matter how busy I was or how overwhelming my responsibilities are. At this point, I have to whip that mind into a focal point, and it is available to focus at that point. To be able to use that mind wherein I can build the chambers and the earlier experience which is unresolved, I can put it there, lock it up, focus on this, be done with this, open it up one by one, work on it, and resolve these issues. That's how available the mind should be, robust, that it ties in down to the organs of perception and it carries forward the clarity to instruct the organs of perception and action, what direction to take. If the mind itself is clueless, the ropes are not strong, and you're trying to whip up and speed up these horses, and they have hardly any impact on the horse because the rope or the reins themselves do not have their strength, do not have stability. It has to be strong and yet be flexible. It has to have a clarity, focal point, and yet find that flexibility in its application and adaptability. Such mind, when yoked to the right, trained, disciplined organs of perception action. And what is Buddhi's job? What is the intellect's job? The intellect's job is to be the charioteer, to direct this mind and the organs of perception action to a purposeful routing. On a purposeful path. You start with one YouTube video. I hear that a lot as a distraction these days with the younger community. You start with one YouTube video, and then what happens? Can you help me with this? And then as you're watching it, the coding of the YouTube page has become robust. Now it starts understanding your tastes. It has licked your taste. And it starts spitting out, according to the taste, those things which you may like. And you see this and say, oh, there's something more interesting. Let me watch that too. And by the way, this is also there. Let me watch that too. And there's no end to it. By the time you realize, your day is done. Sometimes it becomes such a habit that instead of sleeping on the right time, yeah, enough of homework and other things. You're not doing homework. What are you doing? Watching these things, and then end up in late nights. And there's a research saying that if just before sleep you have been seeing into those LED screens, your mind is charged up, the neurons are charged up because of the bright light. It doesn't pull itself off those hooks. And yes, you're lying down, there is no sleep because the neurons have been initiated into a different path. And anyway, sleep was not coming, so therefore go back and continue watching more. All these habits, weakening the mind, wherein all the resources, energies, and strength that is there hidden in that mind are dumped, wasted on these unnecessary routes. I'm not even calling them good or bad. I'm just qualifying them from the standpoint of necessity or unnecessary. Unnecessary paths, and constantly indulging in them, constantly brooding about them. Yes, experience has happened, you did not like the experience. Stop wasting your life in trying to analyze, why did this happen to me? It is happening to me. How do I change it? Instead of why it is happening, stop the why. Instead, focus on understanding it as a statement, not as a question. It is happening. How do I respond to it rather than react to it? Or you have goofed off a good chunk of your life or resources and then sitting, I don't know, I'm always like this. I'm pathetic. I'm good for nothing. I'm a loser. Stop whining. It is done. By whining, are you going to change what is it? Is it going to undo the process? No. Get a grip. Put it back into action. So how should the intellect be? It should carry crystal clear clarity. CCC. Crystal clear clarity. So the buddhi is maintaining crystal clear clarity. The mind is sharp, focused, and accessible. Organs of perception action are disciplined. Such chariot breezes through life with ease. How many of you are into your cars? Wherein you're picky, choosy about what kind of gas goes in, what kind of lubricants go in, how are the interiors, what are the things under the hood, are they amped up? Now I'm talking. Yeah, because his face suddenly changed. Now you're making sense. If somebody were to give you a car and say, everything is okay, just the brakes are little loose, be careful. Would you want to drive that kind of a car? Everything is okay, but it is something, with the accelerator. Sometimes it gets stuck. Would you want to drive such a car? Then why in heaven are we driving such a vehicle? Wherein no nut and bolt is properly aligned. Organs of perception action, they have their own field that they are indulging in. The mind is clueless and the intellect dumbfolded. and then stand in front of the Lord. Oh Lord, do something. Are you expecting that suddenly from the heavens there is a bright light that comes forth and just pervades all over you, and suddenly you come out of the light changed? Stop watching such movies of sudden transformation. Suddenly there was this spider that was charged up with something and comes and bites, and then you become a Spider-Man. There's a reason it is called comic books. Do you understand the meaning of comic? What is the meaning of comic? That which is envisioned to provide some relief of comedy in life. There are people who come, Swamiji, put your hand on my head. Why? You do lot of sadhana, you have lot of positive energy, some energy will flow through me also, so that my things will get changed. If that kind of a transfusion was a possibility, I would put both my heads and both my hands on my own head. Recycle my own positivity. What? Whose life are we talking about? Our own. Whose organs of perception, action, whose mind and intellect? Our own. Are they aligned? Should they not be aligned? Next week we'll go through the same set of 2 mantras, because I have just listed out the problem. So if you have listened to this, you will have to come back next week to listen to the solutions as to how to apply them. So if you go to a doctor and say, I know exactly what your problem is, but I don't know the medicine for it. Would you go back to that doctor? So come back next week for understanding the solution. So we end with the 3rd and 4th mantra of the 3rd Valli, and we repeat the same 3rd and 4th for the next week as well. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah.